Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, the Leo King, and Rich Lopp here for the Awakening Experience. Hope everybody's doing wonderful out there. What is going on in these crazy times? Rich Lopp in the house. What's going on,
up,
bro?
Man? Well, I mean, after the things that you showed me, I don't know what to think now. It kind of looks like I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for what I like to call 2020 2.0 to pop off. And it looks like it's finally started. I was thinking that, I mean, like you said, it did start in Aries season, but I thought they were going to throw the biggest shit show in Aries season. But now it's looking like Taurus season is the season they want to start. But with all this shit going on, I'm going to tell you what, right now, I'm having such a hard time following this. Back in 2020, it was so easy to follow, right? Like all the people doing the crazy shit. It was all one side. The media was for them. It was all one side. It was really easy to tell what was going on. Now it's so twisted up and convoluted that I must say they're actually doing a really good job at confusing me. I must say. Like I always thought that, if anybody can't see through this shit, and it's not that I can't see through it, it's just that I can't follow it. It's so twisted up and crazy. Are you feeling that way at all, or do you understand what's going on?
No, I mean, I could definitely feel that confusing energy, but at the same time, I'm looking at it as a moment where when it was BLM and this social justice warrior, I'm seeing the same thing of like all these people going to protest. They don't even know why, and it's all hearsay.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, well, there's oppression happening or whatever the issue may be, right? And the Black Lives Matter situation turned out to be fucking horrible. Mm-hmm. Well, now in this situation, just you're wrong, because actually in Aries season, all this shit was when it all bubbled up. It's Taurus that's just kind of delivering the goods, And what's interesting is like just, a week ago, the protesters, people like, so why are you here? Well, we came here from another university. Why are you here at NYU? And it was NYU. And they're like, oh, well, we heard that they were treating people bad. It's like, who told you that? I don't know. Actually, I'm not educated on it, but we're here to support whatever. We don't know. So like all the stories, it's like, I think the big difference what we're going to cover today is like, okay, there's social justice warrior that feels like you're doing something right. But when you're occupying buildings, holding them, and then I showed you that interview at the Columbia University where it's like, oh yeah, well, we want to make sure that food and water get in. And they're like, well, why would anybody give you food and water if you guys took occupation of the building? Well, for humanitarian rights. And they're like, is anybody stopping you from bringing like DoorDash in or anything? No, but we want a commitment that won't happen. It's like, well, why are you having a fucking press conference? You guys take over a fucking building and then you guys are saying that people are going to already die and have no water and be starved as if it's the whole Gaza situation. So what's happening is people are watching through their televisions because you're not allowed to go into that zone, right? To go into Gaza, to go into Palestine, you have to go through Israel, right? Then to even get into Israel is fucking hard, unless you have a really extreme religious reason, and it all has to, so, you and I just can't go to Israel, even though we're American. There has to be a legit reason. Like we know that there's people that live there that are getting married or something deep, and then they have to, right? We just can't be like, let's just go tourists. Let's just go be tourists and be like, let's go check out Israel. To get to Palestine, you have to go through Israel, and then you have to cross to go in. And then they're not letting journalists in that area. So everything that's coming out is so hard to already know whether Israel's right on the things or the terrorist group's right on the numbers. So everybody's reacting to television screens in their phones. We don't know the total dead over there. We don't know how many people are. Already a lot of the numbers are already showing that it's impossible for them to be the numbers that they are. I'm not saying people aren't dying, right? But it's like how much of it has been AI that has caused this? How much of it, right? So to me, that's what's the confusing part is how are people reacting about something happening so far away, yet, gosh, I don't know. There's so much crazy shit. There's cannibals right now in fucking countries. There's all this other shit, but unless it has some sort of like flag, like the whole way that the Palestinian flag now is like Black Lives Matter flag.
Yeah.
And this like, raising that flag and putting it out of America and saying America's the repressed place and we're the worst place and all this crazy shit. It feels all again like another setup on an election year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I mean, it kind of reminds me of the way people acted with COVID. They just sit and watch the news and the death counter thing on the news. But then the people who actually got up and went into the emergency room said, look, it's fucking empty. And then their videos got scrubbed, right? Kind of sounds like the same thing. But I don't know. I guess here's the point that I'm trying to make when I say that it seems different. Maybe, I don't know if it's my social media algorithms, but back in 2020, even me, somebody who I make it a very strong point to not look at any bullshit. I don't look at any stupid shit that's going to piss me off. I don't look at any bullshit. Even every feed that I had on every platform was filled with everything going on. Black Lives Matter, putting the little black squares as your profile pictures and just anything and everything that was going on. My feed would be filled with it. Now, though, on my feeds, on my Instagram, and on my Facebook, I don't see anybody talking about anything that's going on. So I don't know if that's an algorithm-based thing or if that's just kind of an indication that maybe a lot more people are waking up. I don't know. That's what's kind of got me a little bit confused because I'm thinking that at some point everybody's going to start getting riled up, and I'm so far not really seeing it.
Well, I think because it's you called this 2020 2.0. That what's the problem is, one, religion's involved now, right? Again, it seems like it's about Gaza, but let's remember Gaza Strip is in Palestine, so it's again about Palestine, and it's again then it's about Israel, and both those places represent ideologies of religion. And then what you're having here in America is it playing out in the only free country there is. So the repression place that is so repressed happens to be the place to where the only place that can be expressed, but also manipulated would be this place, right?
Yeah.
Because it is free. But the irony of the whole thing is I think why you're not seeing people talk about it on social media is because I think a lot of us in the collective are good people. Like we don't care what religion anybody is. But now if you say that you're for Palestine, what are you doing all your Jewish brothers and sisters? Or if you say something about the Palestinians, what are you saying about your brothers and sisters in other parts of the Middle East? So it's like the perfect way for them to truly split this collective now, because it's more of a hush-hush thing. And a lot, if you notice, I guess you don't see it as much, but a lot of these protesters wear masks, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the new thing. Like you wear a mask, and like some people might be like, "Oh, are they dumb because they're shot up with vaccines?" That could be part of it, but I think the other part of it is all the AI recognition, facial recognition everywhere now, right?
Yeah.
So, but you have a problem to where it's turning into really masculinized, like beat down, destroy energy and occupy. Like this reminds me of Occupy Wall Street with encampments and tents, or even in 2020, like Chad up in Seattle, where they were like, we're seceding from the whole country. And they made that one little city in Seattle that was like,
yeah,
right. And it was disgusting. Yeah. It was like the worst place on the planet ever. Did not work. Right. Because then they started being exactly like these people at Columbia University of like, well, we need food and water. Mm-hmm. Right. It was like, we need trash services, but we don't believe in, a free market. And we don't believe in this kind of energy. Right. It's like, okay, so the trash companies came and were like, we're doing this so you guys don't fucking cause another fucking real pandemic of all your shit everywhere. But you're seeing the same thing. I just showed you tonight at UCLA. Last night it went crazy. And then today they've made an encampment and they're making walls if it's a fucking 1,000 years ago. Like we're in a fucking castle war now. And I've never seen police cars like that stacked up just in front of it. So obviously this is a moment where it's like, what would a light worker do if they're feeling a cause for humanity? Because that's what the counter is always going to be. Well, this is for humanity. I would say that number one, as a light worker, you number one, you find your voice and you know how to do that in a place to where you're not going to cause violence, number one. Or I hate to say it, but it's extremely low self-worth because it's very much like, I want to prove my point, so I will take down something that has nothing to do with the point, like the American flag or something like that, and replace it with my flag. That's not even my flag. It's somebody else's flag. But those people on there, there's only a couple million people that live in Palestine. So the amount of people that are protesting, and all of them are not Palestinian or have relatives in Palestine.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of a cold, hard truth people don't want to hear. So it's like, you don't go out there and just start fucking causing ruckus as a light worker. You find a way to help change the collective, and you don't do that by aggression, and you don't do that by trying to force people to listen to you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of things, but that's a start.
Honestly, if you put it like that, then the light workers have been, I would say they've been trying to fight this war since the beginning, because that was the hippies. That was like the first wave of star seeds.
Right.
Was the hippies, and they did exactly what you should do. They said, peace and love. Love is what's going to destroy it. Quit fighting.
Right.
Like, now here it is, 2024. We're still trying to say the same thing. Fucking put your damn weapons down. Quit fighting each other and fucking love each other. And we're still trying to say the same thing, and still people just don't get it. And it's weird because now I think we're at a point where enough of the collective is awakening to the point to where it's kind of more obvious than it ever has been that the only people who are going to awaken are the people who want to. So it's at that point now where we're at that final split. You're only going to awaken if you want to. The people who are involved in all this shit and they're feeding into all that drama and all that bullshit, it's because they like it. They enjoy it. What was that? Matter of fact, did you see that David Goggins video I posted the other night?
Oh, I did, yeah.
Where he was basically talking about how people are addicted to being offended.
Yeah.
They're looking for a reason to be offended. And I reposted it and I said, I've been saying this for years. These people today are not easily offended. They're addicted to drama.
Yeah.
They're looking for something to be pissed off about. They want to be angry. They want to be pissed off. And what do you do when somebody wants to be angry? You're not going to convince them to lay down their sword when they don't want to. They're doing it because they're addicted to the drama. So then what's the solution there? That's what's tricky.
Well, it's funny. Our whole thumbnail was the concept of Mortal Kombat. We actually also did a Street Fighter one. They're both just as good, but we picked the Mortal Kombat one of like the light worker versus the pro-Palestine true justice warrior. And to me, I think you're exactly right. People are addicted to it because they feel like, oh, that's offensive. So, and when you say drop swords, they don't even have swords, but they watch on TikTok this shit. That's their sword, right? Is their phone, right? So they're like, I'm going to go with my friends. And do you guys look like a pro-Palestinian? Or back 4 years ago, do you look like a Black Lives Matter protester? It's a look. Mm-hmm. It's a look, right? Like they already say that, you can't do blackface, right? Mm-hmm. Why are a bunch of white people trying to go look like Palestinians? Okay. I'll call that one out. 2, like, where's this whole idea of like, well, no, I'm going to say there's always like a secret hidden agenda, but it's always like a third party behind the scenes. TikTok's one of them, which obviously it just came out, right? The ban, even President Biden signed the ban, and it gives till the end of the year for ByteDance to sell to an American company. And the CEO said, we will not sell. Right? So obviously you're a dirty fucking company if you're already saying, no, we're not going to sell. This is against our First Amendment right. The irony in all that is how many people on TikTok get banned for speaking the truth? Mm-hmm. How much of all these social media platforms ban fucking the truth? So you have the Chinese, who they have deals with Iran, they have deals with everybody else, feeding this shit like since October like crazy. Then feeding all the Hitler shit too, right? But it's funny because everybody playing the whole game right now against the Jews are doing exactly what Hitler did. So that's kind of the scary part. And then you have another part of it where it's like you have the Christians you have the Pope being like, yeah, settle down, you guys, settle down. Right? And then you have the Christian nation, America, feeding the money to all the wars. So all the Americans are feeding the money, and then they're all protesting about it, saying we don't want war, but they really want war because they want their side to win, because that's the irony of it all. You don't see, when you see, like, I hate to say it, but if you go look at what anybody from Israel or pro-Israel is doing, their protest was like planned at like 9 p.m. in Washington. They like got the actual, like, whatever you would call it, the certificates and stuff to say they're doing it. And it was like very peaceful and chill, and everybody said their thing, and then that's it. Right? And then who's getting hurt? All the Jewish people. Exactly the same astrology as when the Jewish people were getting the stars put on them, Star of David. They had to walk around with that shit. So it's like they're being pointed out again at all these universities. And people are just sitting around being like, no, this is the right justice warrior thing to do. Same thing with Black Lives Matter. If you were white, right, and you were walking down the street of any of those crazy streets in the Midwest, look what happened to Kyle Rittenhouse. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's like there's a secret thing, and then there's the even deeper secret, which I would say is like, okay, you have the Christians behind, like, oh, let's watch both sides demolish each other so we can take over the land again and call it ours because we believe that Christ was the one that was the anointed one, right? And then you have all the Muslim and Islams that are all like, no, that's our land. And then you have the Jews saying it's that. So they're all three going to be pinning for the land. And they're all three involved. The hidden one's the Christian one right now. But that's where it's coming to the big clash too, is like the main thing is you brought up the 60s is it wasn't about religion. The hippies weren't religious. And I think that's what's going to be the difference here is like, I think what's funny is we show just like a guy with a tarot card, mm-hmm. but we don't wear nobody in spirituality claims that a tarot card is the flag of spirituality or the icon or you know what's so funny is they say in the Bible, don't praise an idol. Well, all these religions praise idols. Mm-hmm. Spirituality, there is no idol. Like, who's the main idol of spirituality? Is it Ganesha? No. Is it only quartz crystals? Like, I mean, like what? Like, right? So that's the secret is the religious battle and it pulling on all the strings of all the religions because out of all three of them, they all want to dominate each other and see who wins. That's the real Trinity, ironically.
Well, I think I predicted this, and I'm glad that this is starting to come to fruition. Remember 2 or 3 months ago when I said that I think that Billy Carson is going to be one of the people who really, well, man, I saw him, Case sent me a big podcast that he was on, like a big mainstream podcast. And that message is getting pushed out there. I think that what we're going through right now is the collective religious awakening.
Right.
Eventually all this shit, because if you look back and you pay attention to the patterns, like every time they throw a little shit show, if you just step back and let them throw it, it resolves itself. People see, oh, this is stupid. And they kind of awaken up out of that. And I'm thinking that somehow, some way, within the next 3 to 5 years, this is going to aid in the religious awakening with, all the religions battling against each other over whose God is the right God and all that bullshit. And then you have people like Billy Carson out there talking about, here's our real history.
Right.
That book that you call the Bible, here's where it came from. Here's what it really said. And that message is getting pushed out to the mainstream. Like I'm thinking that somehow I'm anxious to see how it plays out. But somehow I think that all this shit is going to eventually come to a point where everybody like really wakes up to see the truth behind all the religions and how stupid all this shit is. But it seems like instead of doing it the easiest way possible, they always have to make it a fucking shit show. I don't know, man. What do you think? Does that sound?
No, I mean, I think you're right. I think that the way you put it, it's religion and all the religious people of all religions moment for their great awakening. But that's not going to come. I think it's going to get way worse.
Probably.
Because now you're seeing, right, the Palestinian movement go so hard, right, to where they've invaded campuses, taken over, They're beating up Jewish students. Now you're going to see Christians come in to back up the Jews, even though the irony in it all is like all the stories come from what they think the original Judaism, but Judaism stole it from Mesopotamia and Egypt and all that stuff prior, right? And going way farther back. So what you're seeing is, well, a lot of people in the Middle East, for example, don't give a fuck about the Jews as much as like Christians do, because like Christians are, the Bible, the New Testament has the Old Testament in it. So they've read so much of the Old Testament and they know that that's where the original origin for their belief is. So now you're going to start to see Kyle Rittenhouse 2.0. Christians starting to show up with fucking guns and start blowing out fucking Palestinians. And when that fucking happens, it's going to get fucking crazy. That's what they want. You know why? Boom. That creates the war to go bigger. That's when Iran fires like they just said, like, oh, we're at a nuclear capacity just last week, right? Like, you know, that's where they fire a nuke or somebody fires somebody at something, right? That's what they want. They're using the people as pod people. All the religious people are the pod people now to start the big war. That's what they want. They're like, do it all here and fuck up and be stupid. They all don't have jobs. What are they doing? Right? What are they doing?
Getting paid to do all this?
And yeah, they're probably getting paid by fucking the old George Soros, getting the fucking, here's a van, get into it. Yeah. Here's your hijab now. We're not wearing Black Lives Matter shirt. I remember you from 4 years ago. No. Hey, you do really good with a baseball bat, right? Fucking, this time I got you with a pro-Palestinian flag and I got you with a baseball bat. And I'll pay you an extra 100 if you have 2 baseball bats and you fucking, it's just like, okay. But people don't realize that this is all about trying to get the big war to really blow up bigger. And then that's the sad part. Again, it's going to be all about religion again. And that's the hardest part is like people are still, when I bring that out, it triggers them. I put out that post today about fucking Christianity, about like the true cross. Like there was no true cross, like because fucking Constantine's mom fucking had 3 crosses that they had found and they thought that these have to be the 3, right? 400 years later, 395 to be exact. And just took some sick woman because she didn't know which one it was and used her as a pendulum. Yeah. Like, okay, touch this one. Do you feel better? No. Touch this one. Do you feel better? No. Touch this one. Do you feel better? Yes. Oh, that's Jesus's true cross. It healed her. So people actually believe a religion right now that fucking is based off the pendulum of a dying woman touching a cross and feeling better. Yeah. How paganistic is that? It's so pendulum. And so when you look at all the religions, that's what they do. So, that's where it's going to be so weird is we're at this moment now where now they've got all the pod troops set up, right? It's in the mainstream. It's happening, and it's a wildfire that spread up. And then you have AI President Biden not saying a fucking word, right? Because he's trying to win both the votes. So he did something crazy there 2 days ago. He said, all right, well, people from Gaza, we'll take them in as migrants, right? Well, at the same time, he's saying, okay, anti-Semitism, you can't say anything bad about the Jews. You're going to take in the people that are saying bad things about the Jews at the same time. He's like, it's intentional.
Yeah.
Right? And the people that are falling for all this, it's just hilarious because, and it's actually not hilarious because it's horrible, but, this whole idea of the genocide, all this stuff's coming out about the COVID stuff right now in the UK, the AstraZeneca shit. America, they're about to finally put Peter Daszak, who was part of Eco Health Alliance, on fucking in the court. They're going to fucking of Congress on May 23rd and fucking that was connected with Fauci and all the shit that happened in the Wuhan lab and fucking all the shit's coming out that the shot was bad. And of course they're throwing this because they distract as much as you can because even in fucking Congress or in Parliament in the UK, there's that one guy that's on there in the fucking parliament who just did the whole COVID thing and showed that it's like in the UK that 6 to 8 million people died from the COVID shot. That's the genocide.
Yeah.
And so as he's saying this, what's happening? Oh my God, go into Columbia University and throw a press conference like you're being oppressed and you're fucking being fucking... it's like trying to replay the drama of what's happening somewhere else here. When it's like, oh, DoorDash is not getting in. Well, they're getting in. We want to have a commitment. That's the problem with this young generation is they have nowhere to go and how all the elites and how all the last dark reptilians are looking at it is like, these people are so dumb. Look at it. They'll be great in a war. It'll be great in a war.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit scary if well, I don't know how far they're going to let it go, because so far all the connections that I listen to have predicted 95 to 98% of everything that was going to happen for the past 4 years. Now, what they've been saying is that we're going to get right up to the fence of World War III before everything crashes. Now, what is up to the fence? What does that mean? What I mean, looks to me kind of like we're already at that fence now. How much further is it going to go before 2024 is over? There's going to be tanks on the streets and shit, you know? Like, it's going to get crazy. Like, how far is it going to go? That's what kind of freaks me out and scares me a little bit.
Well, I want to know, when I showed you that video of all the NYPD going into the university, I've never seen that many. It's not troops. That's what's weird. It's police officers. But that's the next thing, is military. Mm-hmm. What did you think when you saw all that? Or just now what we just saw in LA with how many cop cars? I've never seen that, like lined up like military troop style.
What I think is that it's just a matter of time before they pull the old white cop killing a black guy out of the hat again.
I think they're going to flip it.
Or they're going to do something to get everybody mad at the police again. Because now they got this little war that they're trying to start, the protesters and whatnot. And now the cops are actually like going in and fighting it. Where remember back in 2020 where they turned everybody against the police, defund the police, and how many cities across America they passed laws where cops can't arrest people, and like all the cops in New York quit. There was only like, I think they said something crazy like 150 cops in all of New York City, and crime was running rampant. And it's like, okay, well, over the last 4 years, what happened? Now the cops are back on the scene. How long is it going to be before somebody does something to go against the police again? That's kind of where my mind is.
Well, and I think they're not going to use the cops as the bad ones. I think they're going to use the protesters, because how everybody finally woke up after 20 years of the Iraq war, right? 9/11, that was a bad way to go to war and to kill millions of innocent people. Let's not forget, America killed millions of people in Iraq and Afghanistan. Millions. So how are you going to get people to want to go into war again? Right now, it looks like everybody's on the side of the Palestine and the genocide and whatever. Now you're going to get them to kill a couple cops with a Palestinian flag like wrapped around a cop car with the blood spilled of a Jewish cop. Now the martyr is the cops that were trying to protect America and the Jews or something crazy to get them to go, we're going in. And they have all the troops. They would just ask the Secretary of Defense yesterday. Matt Gaetz asked him. So you say there's no boots on the ground in Palestine right now, but you guys have a dock off a ship right next to the fucking sand. You're telling me right now, if a Palestinian shoots at one of our American soldiers, that they'll shoot back and that we're engaged in combat? And he goes, yeah, that's what will happen. It's like, so you're putting him right in harm's way, like, you know, intentionally. That's what he says. He's like, well, not intentionally. He's like, you built a fucking dock on the water, never been done before, next to the boat with troops sitting on the dock. You're just, it's like, please shoot me so we go to war.
Yeah.
So if you see it right now, I see it, and that's the way it is, because that's where the Christian side comes in, right? It's like, look at, because like right now, if you just watch the sides online in the battle, all the, let's call them Christian conservatives, are all backing, of course, the Jews, which, you know, as a human, I'm backing any side that's not about killing another side right now. But unfortunately, whenever you see that, that's where they're going to like martyr that side in order for a bigger thing to happen. And then, you know, these Gaza things won't be talked about. It'll be talked about, you know, the shit that comes to pass here in the next couple months here, or even, let's be real, these next couple weeks are pretty gnarly, that are going to blow people's minds of like, this is what brought us to this bigger thing. I mean, Russia this week just said, we are going to fire off every single nuke we have if this Ukraine conflict continues and more American troops, or if anything happens, if more nukes get brought around us or air defense systems, we are just going to fucking push all the fucking bombs. Like, they're at their fucking wit's end. And we just sent 60 billion over there. And the problem isn't weapons. The problem is people. So 35 Ukrainian men died for trying to skip out on the new draft over there. So all the videos coming out of like, they're searching everywhere for Ukrainians. Everywhere. They're going underground. They're finding them like hidden out. And all their fucking OnlyFans porn star girlfriends are trying to protect them in their fucking suites and apartments. And they're finding them. And then some of the guys are fighting back and they're shooting them. Because they're like, I'm not going to fight. There's no more Ukrainian troops left. 500,000 people have died in the Ukraine war already in 2 years. 500,000. Nobody talks about that genocide. Ironically, though, that's the side that we're fighting, so you can't call it a genocide. Right? That we're backing, supposedly. Right? So that's where it gets really weird is like, okay, there's all that happening, and then America's got, just in the last week, too, 18,000 troops with the Philippines, which we were about to stop doing things with them, and now we're all buddy-buddy, and we're right next to fucking China. And China's saying, what the fuck are you guys doing? And we're fucking blowing up shit and having fun and trying to do fucking all these drills ready for war. So we're fucking on all fronts intentionally. The COVID shit's coming out. The genocide has happened. So many people are dying. More people are dying every day. It's fucking crazy. If you just follow died suddenly, just every fucking day. It's crazy. Like they said they can't even keep up with the account. And they always snapshot the person who said, I got my fucking shot with the Band-Aid. And all these doctors who said to go get it, who are fucking 28 to 38 years old, dying with cancer. I'll make it another day. And then next day, dead. It's crazy to watch that account. And it's all verifiable. They tag the person and then you follow it. And then you see the whole family being like, I don't know how you died so fast.
Well, I mean, this is... I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words, honestly, because like I said, right now we're at a point where there isn't, sometimes I kind of feel like my hands are a little bit tied as a light worker. Because like when you asked a minute ago, as a light worker, what do you do? And I'm sitting here racking my brain thinking we've done like everything we can and we're doing everything that we can. After a certain point, there's not a lot left that we can do. Because like I said, and where you say that, they're talking about this genocide, but, all this shit's happening over here. What about this genocide? I mean, that reminds me of COVID. Like they're saying, oh, well, there's this one virus that's killing this many people, but look at how many people the flu's killing, And that's just the way the human psyche is like programmed, is if it's coming on the news screen, then forget about everything else and pay attention to what's on the news. And in 2024, if you're still getting sucked into the news or the hearsay and whatnot, what can a fucking light worker do? I don't even know at this point, for real.
Well, I think what a light worker is here to do is to inspire, and it's not about, what I think is weird is the light worker is about the collective, but by focusing on what you bring to the collective at full power, not by who you're teaming up with before you found who you are within yourself. There are no flags, there are no countries, there are no atrocities that you get lost in. You get not lost, you find your code within yourself, your true understanding of who you are, and then you start waking people up that are attracted to your light because you don't have to force it on people. Like I think the biggest light worker test is, do you have the power to find that energy within you, but then also how to bring it out without having to be a protester that gets attention for 10 minutes and nobody wants to listen. It's not like, you're just a news article for a second, right? Like let's use Kyle Rittenhouse, for example, right? Like, okay, that guy fucking self-defended himself and used his Second Amendment rights and was trying to help people that were getting done. It's not like I follow Kyle Rittenhouse, you know what I mean? Like, that's not a light worker. That's like a person doing a good deed in a moment that wasn't a fun scenario. A light worker is somebody that knows how to consistently keep the light on when it's fucking crazy. Because it's like a lighthouse. It's like when it starts to get really fucking dark in the middle of the night and you're in a ship and really foggy and you don't know what you're seeing, all the light workers are the light fucking houses that fucking from far away, it's like, okay, at least I know where I can keep my center spiritual bead at and a reminder of that. That's all a light worker is supposed to do. I mean, it's not like we're supposed to go out there and change the world, because the world will change together by itself once everybody finds that light within themselves. So when you join a social justice warrior program, they're just going to throw you in Street Fighter against the other side that they're wanting to fight, you know? And they don't care how much your life force gets taken down on the meter. You know, they just want as much that could happen and to cause as much disruption, which it's not about that. It's the disruption of a light worker, I feel, is like light is information, right? Darkness is no information. Like, that's like the oldest thing I learned becoming a light worker, is that if there was no light, there'd be nothing. You wouldn't see nothing. So would anything be there? It's the same concept with your, you know, mind mastery series and all the stuff that you do, right? It's like, I don't see what's behind me. You are the one seeing me, and the people watching me on camera seeing and creating this space for me. So if there is no light, there's nothing. Same thing with the sun. If there's no sun, we're all dead. We're not going to still be here as an earth, still here. With no light, we've gone. It'd be instant. So being a light worker is about constantly holding a light and helping people by showing people, honestly, like, not light workers don't fall for whatever the new fad is right away. Because it's like, there's no point. Like that's not going to change things. If anything, that's just causing the inflammation of all the situation to get worse. I mean, there's a lot of other ways. I don't know if you have anything to add to that part. But
basically, the point that I'm making is that, you know, we're doing that, and we're doing it fucking hardcore. But like I said, now it's getting to a point where I think that and I don't know, I could be wrong on this because I've said this many times throughout the past 4 years, but it really does feel like all the people who are going to awaken have awakened. If you ain't awake now, you ain't fucking waking up. I could be wrong on that, though. Like, I was saying that back in 2020. I said that in 2021. So I could be wrong on that. Maybe there are... I just can't fucking wrap my mind around how you could still be involuntarily spiritually asleep in 2024. I can't comprehend that. Like, if you're spiritually asleep in 2024, you want to be. Like, you're doing this shit because you want to. You're turning away from the light because you consciously want to. Maybe I'm wrong. Does that sound accurate? That's just the way I perceive it.
I agree with you, but I think what's happened is you have all the influencers that are coming out saying during the beginning of Biden's presidency that they were getting paid to speak about, like, the Supreme Court justice that was being picked to back her up and say, because she's a black woman and all that shit. And they were like, I'm not going to say that because, you know, like, but I'll support it because you're paying me, like. Right. So if you look at all the influencers that all in the last since October have been just doing this whole, look what's happening in Palestine. It's so bad. When none of that info is fully verifiable or true, and they don't go themselves to find it out. Nobody knows. Same thing with Ukraine. Nobody really knows. Like, everything's so, you know, what's really going on? You know, the porn's still turning out of Ukraine. Like, the biggest country of export and import of fucking cocaine is fucking Ukraine. Like, what? Right? So it's like, okay, so there's something weird going on there. And then it's like, okay, now you see this whole Israel-Palestine thing, and it's like, you can't get really good info. You have the IDF speaking, which is the military of Israel, and then you have Al Jazeera fucking news, which is fucking always going to pick whatever side they want and say whatever they want and make it look worse than it is, right? That's what the news always does. And then Israel's going to make themselves look better than they're doing. So there is no clear information. So if there's no clear information, you don't react to it. You already know that, like COVID, I was like, this isn't real info. I'm not going to react to it. I'm not going to, like, live my life in line with that life. And I think that's the problem, is it's the influencers, and people look up to these people and they go, well, they're into the Free Palestine thing, so I got to be just like Black Lives Matter. And if you see all the Black Lives Matter people now that were promoting it, they all say that was a mistake, especially when they found out, like, the Black Lives Matter fucking organizers went and bought all those homes, went and bought all that shit. They didn't give any money to black people. Right? Like, and that was what people thought. So do you really think a free Palestine movement is going to help Palestine? Nobody's going to do shit there. But you go build them new homes. You're going to go give them some money. That's the irony is like, what are they demanding? They want to stop the war, but really they say from the river to the sea, they want to end Israel. So that means it's a religious fight because who's funding Hamas? Who's doing that? All the fucking Iran and all the fucking Ayatollah's energy, but all of the extreme smaller version of Islam, right? Like that's where you get into the Sunnis and the Shiites, right? And there's two different versions of Muslim and looking at Muhammad in a different way and believing that the blood of Muhammad still lives. And that's what Iran thinks, that the head leader, the Ayatollah of Iran, it has ancestors who are connected to Muhammad. And that's only, I think, 16% of Muslims that believe in that style of Muslim, right? But then you have like the rest that don't. But that's what's funding Hamas. And so then that message is what's getting to America through TikTok with the Chinese who've made deals with Iran. In 2022, the biggest deal was made between the military of Iran and fucking China. So what do you think TikTok is? Why do you think the government's not saying it out loud? What really is going on? The FBI director just this week said to every American, delete your TikTok. This is the most dangerous thing in your phone, right? And it's like people are like, well, I don't trust the government because of COVID shots and all that shit, right?
That's where it's getting.
That's where it's getting really weird.
That's a prime fucking example of what I'm talking about. Because that's where it's getting hard to follow. Now you can't, like, you say that Biden signed something that'll ban TikTok.
Well, he signed the bill in Congress and Senate.
I never, for the life of me, thought that I would hear myself saying that Biden would do something that I would fucking like. I'm like,
yeah, but guess who's staying on TikTok, who just joined, who is going to promote on TikTok while he signed to ban it? Biden.
So, and then, but then like the, so like the FBI. And so like, I absolutely do not trust the FBI, but they're going to come out and say this. So it's like, maybe they're just doing a really good job at getting people who don't trust them to trust them. Maybe they're figuring out little things that they can do to win over the favor of the people who don't trust him. You know what I'm saying? It's the only thing that I can think, because I'm going to tell you what, I never thought I'd be this confused. I never thought. Every time I think I know what they're doing, they pull a fucking curveball. And I'm like, dude, I can't follow it.
So I'm going to say I trust the FBI because I dealt with them here, right? Like I was so nervous because I was like, the FBI is fucking corrupt probably, right? But when whoever the fuck it is, even though I think I found who the person is pretty easy after they keep emailing me for years and basically have admitted being the person, somebody in fucking Europe emailed the Orange County sheriffs of Florida and said I had killed people and I was going to kill more people and all this crazy shit. And then emailed and used my info at the leoking.com email, which is my general email for the website. You could just input whatever the email is on their contact form. Mm-hmm. And then that I have it. I just saw it the other day. It came up as like a memory. Then the fucking sheriff's department instantly sent me back an email because it thought it was me being like, we got your email. We'll contact you soon. And then I wrote back like, hey, this is not me. This is probably a fan. I just got off a live show. I see this was done 2 hours ago. You can verify my IP address here in Orange County, California. I live in Orange County, California. I've not done any of these things. I did not write this email. I was live on a show. I have witnesses. Please contact me and we can try and figure out who this is. Well, they don't contact me. The FBI shows up here. And I never let them in here. I did the whole, you can make a message to my Ring doorbell here at the fucking studio. And then they went to my house and then they told me fucking 2 weeks later after talking to them because they basically knew I didn't do it. But they had SWAT teams in both cities where I lived and here waiting to come in, both. And then they said, no, stop, hold on. He's telling the truth, but let's keep looking a little deeper. So they took 2 weeks to cover my case. And then I was going to meet them, right? And then they were like, oh yeah, let's meet. And we're just going to talk about this shit. I'm like, I won't meet you like at my house or any place, like more in public. And then they're like, well, let's just do it on the phone. We'll finish this shit. And then they fucking gave me poison ink, where if anybody fucking ever does try to do that again, that automatically every police department and FBI, CIA will always see like, oh, people are out to like get this public figure in a bad way. And that we verified that he's not bad. I'm like, wow. And they saw my fuck Biden stickers and shit. And I asked them, I'm like, what's going on? Because it's hard to trust. They go, like anywhere, 99% of us, we're all good. There's that top percent that we can't control that is fucking weird. But we're good people. Can you take down the Ring video on your Twitter? I'm like, how do they know that?
Take down the which video?
So I put up the Ring video of them, the 2 FBI officers showing up to the studio on my Twitter. Right? And that's what their number one thing, because they didn't want their faces to be revealed, because they don't want people to know they're FBI because they're dressed in civilian clothes. You know what I mean? And of course, of course. I'm ex-military, like I'm cool. Like, you know what I mean? They're like, and we're cool. So I trust the FBI because they could have fucked me. They could have said it was me and found some way or whatever, even though I have my proof, but I didn't do it. So they did the right thing. So if there's I think that's the problem, is like there are so many people doing the right thing, but like the top, what's really weird though is Christopher Wray, who is the FBI director, he's been sounding these all alarm bells that's kind of going against what Biden wants to hear and stuff, right? So it's kind of interesting to see. It's a really weird moment, because being in the military and like knowing how intel works, they don't want to say the real truth out loud because they can't, right? That they know, because then that could blow up a whole military operation against what's going on in China, right? That China and Iran have a big thing. Iran fired 2 weeks ago. So Aries season was when it was all kicking off. Iran fired at Israel. That's the first time we've seen a country fly into another country in the Middle East to Israel like this since Yom Kippur fucking wars and shit. But this is bigger. This is like Iran fucking Israel, like exchanging fire and other countries taking fucking that fire down for them and all this crazy shit, right? Well, I think that the loud part is that they don't want to say is that, hello, delete that shit, because you're not getting what you want. The algorithm is set for the shit that they want you to be addicted to. And that's the whole thing, is the algorithm at TikTok is the most valuable part of TikTok. They even say that in their sales thing and all that. And that's what other people know. But I'd be worried if the CCP was trying to push me. If I was a TikToker, why would they be trying to push my message? They're only pushing Palestine message. People who, I've always said that TikTok's for the people who couldn't make it on Instagram or YouTube or anywhere. Because if you notice, they're not people who really have that much, it's like, it's like the people you kind of feel sorry for.
Yeah.
And that's what the CCP is doing, is they're taking the low ball people, pushing them to the top that say the stupidest, craziest things with no info, and they don't give them enough time or tools to really give depth. And the ones they do, they kick off, right? Because there are, I don't want to say that everyone's bad, because there's some badass TikTokers, but they all get censored. But they're pushing this Free Palestine thing so hard since October. It's been 6 months now. And now look what's happening, right? It's just like Black Lives Matter. That came through Instagram. Do the black square. Right? What's it going to be in like a week? Palestinian flag? Or I just saw there's a movement for May the 4th on Twitter to wake up Elon Musk, because they just proved that Elon Musk isn't replying to everybody because it's impossible. Every 10 minutes, 24 hours a day, Elon Musk replies to somebody. And it's the same thing. I agree, or whatever. So it's a bot. So Elon Musk is a bot.
Guarantee it.
Right? So that he also is suppressing a lot of the shadow ban. The only people that make it are the top Republican accounts. And then like a couple of the top liberal, like crazy accounts, because then that creates the battle.
Yeah.
Same thing on TikTok, same thing on Instagram. So unless you pick a social justice warrior side, or the side against the social justice warrior side, and then you got to say you're a fucking Christian, you get up to the top. That's the only way you get anywhere now. So that's where they're going to do this. Don't post on Twitter to get Elon Musk to take off the shadow ban shit. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But you watch, this whole black square is going to turn into a Palestinian flag. And then it's like, well, what does that represent? What does Palestine represent? What are their beliefs? What are their laws? And when you look that up, it's like, would you actually promote that shit?
Yeah.
I don't want bad shit to happen, but bad shit happens all the fucking time. And then I think people forget at the end of the day, like we fund so much stuff, like, you know what I mean? Or like, let's say the worst part, I'm going to just bring it like home to people. There are people that have been bad in my life that were great people, but they got fucking on the wrong path with drugs. And I've helped them before or during to help them to try and get out of their bad situations, and then they didn't in life. Does that make me a bad person because I gave them some money to eat? Or gave them some money to try and get off drugs? But then they went and stayed on drugs and fucking, you know, ended up in a Carl's Jr. bathroom with a fucking syringe in their fucking arm, fucking, or passing out and fucking hitting a pedestrian while they were driving. Does that make me a bad person because a week ago I helped them? So when they say America's funding Israel for their protection, it's what the people that do things do. It's not the people who fund. I think people have to get over that because every single person watching this has funded somebody who did something bad. Does that make you, so should you get fucking, like think of every relationship that you've like loved somebody possibly, and then they turned out to be a bad person. That would be weird. I have one ex, of course, that's in prison for 25 years now. But, you know, that was 15 years ago. Or actually, it's 20. It's 20 years ago. But does that make me a bad person because I used to love a person who did bad shit years later on or days? It doesn't matter the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's almost kind of hard having this conversation, too, because, you know, just kind of listening on the surface, it kind of sounds like we're pro-Israel. And I'm sitting over here like, well, how do I take a middle ground here? Because I've never understood anything about the Jews, let alone hating them. Like, and it's not, I'm not saying I'm for them. I'm saying like, I care about as much as your religion. I care as much about your religion, whether you're a Jew, whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, as I care about like what color socks my fucking neighbor's wearing.
Right.
I don't give a fuck.
Well, imagine if we were talking on the other side of the fence. It would sound like we're pro-Palestine.
Yeah. That's what's so weird about this. And it has to be being done this way for a reason. Like they're making it to where even if you're not picking a side, you look like you're picking a side.
Yep.
I mean, that's that narcissistic brainwashing to where, you know, obviously the pro-Palestine people are the fucking fucktards. So if we go against them, we look like we're siding with the Jews.
Right.
Right. And if you know, so it's like they're good. These fuckers are good.
Well, I think it comes back down to not about the location and the countries and the religions, but just about people. Like you shouldn't go. And I think, but this is where you're not seeing it in America. You're not seeing people kill pro-Palestinian people. You're seeing people hurt and try to kill Jewish people. So there's a big, like, it's one of those things where like, that's a true fact, right? So like Jewish people are afraid to go to school now, right? Jewish people are being attacked because they're part of an ideology and a religion that happens to be in the form of a country that's battling in a war against another country called Palestine that has been fighting this same battle for thousands of years, right? So now, because it doesn't go the way that you want to in the media, you go attack people in America that because they happen to be Jewish, right? So as a light worker, you're right. It's not about sides. It's about humanity. It's like, I don't give a fuck about what religion you are, but I love you as a human being. Doesn't matter what side you are. I don't have anything against anybody in their religion. I'll be honest though, in the background, I'm like, you guys are all retarded following for all these fucking stories and shit and not doing the work yourself like an alchemist and actually seeing if it really works in reality and manifestation and all this crazy shit, right? But that doesn't mean that I carry that thought 24/7 or something. It's more of just something that I've come to and that I'm also open to always hearing. Like, look at Russell Brand. Mm-hmm. This is what I've been saying, right? Is you're going to see all the fucking spiritual people all convert to Christianity. Mm-hmm. And now you have him, I'm getting baptized. And then did you see he fucking got baptized on Sunday? And then he brought out a video after being baptized and he's dressed like the fool and he pulls out a tarot card deck and he pulls out the 8 of Swords.
What?
Yeah. And then he fucking says, Well, it's the weirdest Russell Brand they've ever seen. And then he starts going, I want to know how you all feel about, being religious or being baptized and what you feel about using tarot cards and the occult. And then he actually makes a point of showing that, does it really matter if I have a tarot card here?
Really?
Yeah. I was like, damn. Wow. And then I wrote to him and I was like, yo, fuck yeah, bro. Like, you're right. And I was like, but, I started bringing up weird Christian shit, and then all the Christians in there attacked me. Like, the occultist, the occult, the occult, the occult. And then they all started to see like, oh, of course, he's a fucking bad person because now he's in Christianity, he's an occultist. So that battle's now starting to happen.
What the fuck? I didn't know.
And he's just trying to wake people up. Like, does it matter that I'm baptized and I'm Christian and I also am all about love and harmony and all this shit, and that, are you really afraid of this fucking tarot card?
Well, I mean, that's why I was saying that. And remember that video I put up? I remixed that video where somebody said something about, oh, this person used tarot cards.
Yeah, I know. It was hilarious. I put that shit up.
Yeah,
too.
I said something like, oh, just read the Bible. It'll tell you. Don't play with tarot cards. And but honestly, on a serious note, though, you're way more educated with the Bible and whatnot than me. Where do they get the idea that tarot cards are evil? What makes them think that?
Well, there's a couple different scriptures that go into that. Astrologers, stargazers, that especially during the time of, whether it's at the end of times, there's parts of Isaiah that go into it, that say that anybody who practices these things, even though if you read the original King James Version, I'm talking about like 1611, like the book I have, the Bible I do have, the original, it's written different. But it's like that they're going to end up in the fires. And now they don't say hell or anything like that, just the fires, that the fires will consume them. But they have to remember that the irony of the fire is the ether and the elements, right?
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny because it's all been rewritten and retranslated to look like it's condemning. Yet if you look at how the Bible's written, it's just a beautiful book that takes divinity and Roman theology, Jewish theology, Egyptian theology, Babylonian, and it's against the Babylonians. It's talking about the history of the Babylonians that were using astrology and stargazers and how they were bad people to the Romans. And then the Romans, of course, ended up using it too, right? That's what the Bible doesn't tell you. It's about going deep into history and trying to show that those people in Babylon were bad because they were using these practices. They were the end of their civilization because they use those practices. Now the new Bible of 2024 and beyond will be the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims who were following these crazy religions were the fall of civilization, if you were to understand how it is. But most people that look at the Bible don't realize that in these verses, they're either storytelling about the past to teach people, right? Like what happened. So in that case, that's what Isaiah is saying, is that like the Babylon and what they were about was about stargazing and astrologers, and they ended up in the fires and all this crazy shit. And that ironically though, that Christianity is based off, they picked the Roman theology while putting the Old Testament of the Jewish theology, and it was the Romans against the Jews. And then they ended up becoming a Roman, theological Christian religion. So that's the irony of the whole thing. But the old stuff they take are from these people from all these different hundreds of years in time that write all these things that are chosen. It wasn't the Council of Nicaea where they chose the Bible per se. The Bible took a long time to get to where it's at today. But the translators come through kings. They come through always an emperor who becomes a pope. And that's really what it is the idea that whoever is king was chosen by God and Jesus supposedly. So then I make the way that the church is, and like it's been done so many times over and translated so many times, especially King James Version. He wrote a book before the King James Version of the Bible called Demonology because he believed that his wife he couldn't get to her because of witches. Mm-hmm. That'd be crazy if I could see a witch create a fucking storm that could make you stop fucking me on a boat and say, hey, come on down to High Vibe. I bet you could do some badass shit.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, witches don't know how to do shit like that.
Yeah.
They might help you with your period blood.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering because I've been curious for the longest time that, you know, I would like to give the Christians the benefit of the doubt and assume that there's some scripture or verse that references tarot cards.
It's not tarot, it's occult stuff. The tarot came out in the Renaissance time. So that's the thing is like, that's when, you know, the peak of the Renaissance had happened, right? End of 1400s, 1500s, then you get 1600s, and then you get King James Bible. And King James is kind of the one who kind of, like, the Renaissance period had kind of peaked out, right? So he's kind of the one who everybody's like, well, he's not originally like a tutor, you know, but he kind of is. He's, you know, okay. Because Queen Elizabeth I didn't have any children. So when she died, that's when King James came on. And then he was King James of Scotland, and then he became King James of England. And so he became the king of both and brought them together after being at war and freedom and independence for 400 years. So, man, I know too much stupid history.
No, it's cool.
But that was like the peak of the Renaissance ending. And so he kind of ends the Renaissance, in my opinion, because then that book comes out. And what happens? If you don't go by the Bible in England at the time, by King James' own version of the Bible, where his own translators are translated it, there was the Geneva Bible that was right prior to that. That was the first Bible that was printed in English. His version, of course, was his version. If you didn't do that, that's what caused the Mayflower and everybody to leave on the Mayflower, was because if you didn't follow exactly the Church of England the way it was done, and he was trying to almost bring back the Catholic version because there was a secession that had been happening, the schism it was called, from King Henry VIII back in the 1500s, from 1530, that I'm leaving the church, right? So I can get my annulment from my fucking wife, so I can marry fucking Anne Boleyn. And left the whole church. And fucking then now it's like trying to be kind of like the Pope in their church. That's what makes the pilgrimage happen, and people to fucking go to the Netherlands, the only place that was allowed to be free of religion, buy the boat, get back everybody from England, take the boat of 100 people and fucking go to the New World. So people who follow Christianity don't realize that at the beck and call of the Bible is always any new version, or any version that comes out, is tyranny and the worst things that happen that people have to pilgrimage away. And the reason why America is here is because of the Pilgrims. Because they were like, I'm not going to follow that shit. We want to follow Christianity our own way. And that's what created the Quaker movement. And the Quaker movement was like, we're not going to follow all this. The Bible's fucking wrong. We're going to follow just the light within. That's what Quakers are about. And that everybody at the table just speak the light within. Let's not use the Bible shit. And even women and men and anybody can speak. But that's where Lightworkers come from, is the Quaker movement. The light within, and to let God speak through you. That's really where it comes from. And that comes from after the pilgrimage. That's actually my whole lineage. But my family helped start the Quaker movement with William Penn. And long story short, yeah, Palmers are in there. John Palmer. So, it's like that's where my whole history comes from, right? Is understanding this shit. And knowing the atrocities that have happened from Christianity, especially people getting so lost into it and following it to the scripture, that the real scriptures nobody knows, right? The Catholic Church has all of them and chooses which ones they want. Or they just found a bunch of papyrus that was just buried. And I mentioned this like a couple months ago, and I'm like, oh, this is going to reveal some shit. And they now know where Plato's buried based off it. And they used AI to find it. And so it's like kind of interesting seeing that there's more discoveries of the ancient shit that it's going to turn all religions on their head, right? Like anybody who believes in the Muslim tradition is really just a Christian that just replaces Christ with Muhammad and creates their own version of it. Because really, even astrology, the Arabs carried astrology for so long. So that's why there's Arabic parts in astrology. So when people talk about their part of fortune, that comes from the Arabs. A lot of astrology is Arab, Babylonian, Roman, Indian, like it comes to like today's Western astrology is all of those. So as an astrologer, I look at it like, well, they're all my brothers and sisters. Like as an astrology chart, if you look at your today's astrology chart, every part of that astrology chart is Arab, Roman, Jewish, mysticism, and Vedic in one chart. But it's also Babylonian. It's also to the beginnings of time. That's the first thing that that any human ever did was write bones to plot the stars. That's what they did on the walls of caves. So, I mean, at the end of the day, to condemn astrology would be condemning our human race, which is the quest to look at our skies and try and understand why the fuck we're here, what the fuck's going on. Mm-hmm. They don't want you doing that. They want you still looking at a cross that a woman whose Etsy store was so bad that her son was the emperor and allowed her to find the true cross and used a woman dying to touch like a pendulum. And people, then they changed the cross to the one you see today. It's like because they didn't want a Greek cross.
Yeah.
So I just think it's crazy that people wear the cross and they pray to it and they look at it and then they think Jesus is this white guy with perfect like hair and all this shit when he was Arab, like, you know, like it fucking gets really dark when people actually realize there was no, Jesus of Nazareth. There was no Nazareth.
Yeah.
Nazareth's not a place. Nazareth, you break it down, it means like a magi or somebody of magic. Like it's so... Everybody's fighting over all this shit. It's all a movie. It's a movie that became too real for people. And they forgot that it was it's like, you know how we worry about VR becoming our reality?
Yeah.
We watch that every day with religion. People are strapped in their religious goggles and they think it's fully real. And then if you look at Revelations, the idea is to just, once the third temple is destroyed, just right now the second temple is in Jerusalem. They all are going to perfectly coordinate. What you're seeing right now is Free Palestine movement, the Jews happening, because they're going to fucking destroy the temple. And when that's done, it makes everybody believe a pre-written story that they change the narrative as much as they can to where people now have got it through these New Testaments, these new versions of it over the last 150 years. Remember that the word dinosaur didn't even come out until 1841. It was dragons before that, and dragons are in the Bible, right? When that temple destroys, every Christian's gonna be like, this is the moment. We're all going to heaven. We're all being resurrected. This is it, right? Like Revelations has begun. And then start to create like, who's that Antichrist and who's this and and the four horsemen and it's all fucking here. It's like all of it's astrological, but like people are really that dumb that they're going to, and then all the religions kind of have this end time thing, which is the end of Pisces. And Neptune this week goes to the last degree of Pisces and Neptune rules it. And so we're about to see the world go beyond mad. Like Mad Hatter. Their own tea parties with Palestinian flags and drinking wine and thinking it's Christ's blood.
Shit.
And all thinking that it's end times and that we're all going to be saved. And really it's just a bug. You know, like all the NDEs, you like to talk about that. Like the government just came out, like a CIA guy just came out about all the NDEs that they have done. Saying that when you die, and if you go to that white light, you're going right back into this fucking hole, right?
That's it.
Right? Like you need to turn around and look at the universe and say, I want to go home.
It's a death trap.
It's a death trap, yeah.
Yeah, they actually have them implanted all across the planet.
Yeah.
To where it's like something that they've actually, I don't know how it works, but it's something just right over on the other side to where it catches your attention because it's a bright light. You're like, oh my God. And you want to go towards it because you find yourself in the black void.
Yeah, it's a TikTok.
Yeah, and then so the light comes on. You feel drawn towards it. Whatever you focus your attention. When you die, whatever you focus your attention on, you're there. So you focus on this bright light, and then it's a death trap. It sucks you in, and you just get spit right back into the game. So,
well, and they used your loved ones too, like the CIA guy says that on a lot of occasions you'll be standing over your body, and then you'll hear in the background voices of old loved ones.
Sometimes, yeah.
And then they say, come on, come on. And then you turn around and you see this bright white light and you're like, oh, I guess I'm going to go. Instead, I've always said, to me, it feels like a pedo room. That's how I'm going to look at it. When I die, I end up in that room and I see light, I'm going to go, no, that's where the pedophiles are. Where's the darkest corner where I could be like Alice and get the fuck out? Where's the door out? You know, what he says that all the NDEs that the CIA would look at from people is that they all turned around and saw the whole vast universe, and that the ones that they really confirmed were really able, that came back, that said, like, I was able to finally feel the other dimensional portals of where I'm originally from.
Yeah.
Literally, you say, it's so weird because it's like Wizard of Oz, like tapping your fucking feet and saying, like, take me home, right? Like I just want to go home. Like, I'm done. I'm done with this incarnation crazy ass fucking cycle. But what's crazy is, like, there's a lot of weird shit that I believe is that the insects are behind the incarnation cycle and the soul. And that's what sucks, is that it's very insect, or that's where you get reptiles that are still here, and they change the names of them and all that shit. And that's the scary part, is people, when they look at Christ, they're really praying to like a praying mantis. Or if they're to Muhammad, it's a praying mantis, right? It's like these bugs that they believe. And that's what bugs want, is to take you back and regurgitate you in. Like, it's kind of gross.
Yeah. No, that is very true. And from what I've heard, though, it's not that hard. When you die and you go over to the other side, all you have to do is ask your friends for help. Say, no, I don't want to go to that light. Hey, somebody come help me find my way out of here. Yeah. And they'll show up. But you have to ask for it.
Right.
Most people are so captivated by that light. They're like, oh my God, I feel all this unconditional love and light, and they want to float towards that, and that's all they're focused on.
Right.
But you cross over, you see that damn light, you say, no, hey, where are my friends at? Help me out of here. And they'll come get you and take you out of the game.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like, almost like they found a way to kind of like, it's like a hack. Like, they hacked the system to, when you die, that they just show you this light, and they come on. And that's like, if you think of like the number one species on the planet that uses attraction to go into a trap, it's insects. From spiders to ants to everything, they set traps. And so that's where it gets even crazier. And insects are the only ones too that fucking will use another insect and like poison it in order for it to create the perfect place for it to mate, to have its babies, and then digest it and eat the food. Like, we're dealing with a world like that's what you're actually seeing, and people are not seeing it. You know, they're actually believing in these crazy stories. And if it is a hologram, which it's proven, and there was a guy who last week took the hologram thing and then used it as a real true understanding of computers, and was like, holy shit, like, the amount of data, the amount of things that the hologram would need to run this thing, that basically why history feels like this fascinating place to kind of, the same way that you astral project into your future, we do that in our past, right? Of our history, that we think it could be like.
Yeah.
Because that the data is already written over. So like, when you go too far back, it feels like there's nothing. The same way that if you were to get on an old computer, or if you were to be on your computer and it's like you delete those stupid little files and shit to try and remember what it said and all that shit, you'd be like, and that's what's weird about hard drives, is it keeps it on. It might say it's deleted, but it keeps it on. But finally, when it gets to a place where the data needs to be written over it, it'll write over that data. So the data keeps getting written over. So anybody believing that any of that shit happened is really crazy, because actually it's been written over in the hard drive. That's kind of deep.
Yeah. No, it's crazy stuff, man. We're finally getting to that point to where we're waking up and seeing the truth behind all this shit, you know. And I mean, as far as social justice warriors, they're probably gonna fucking go over to the other side, see that light, and go straight for it, and gonna end up right back in the old 3D Earth.
I know.
You know, that's actually of all the things we could have said tonight in this show, that's probably one of the most important things.
Yeah, it is.
Is that light.
The death trap.
I've been wanting to find a show to bring that up, and you just brought it up. I've been thinking, man, we got to put that in the show at some point. That's very, very important because we got to end this fucking reincarnation cycle on this planet. And those death traps, well, the last I heard, they're going around trying to, but they're hidden all over the planet. They're actually on the planet.
Yeah.
Like they're, I don't know how they project that into the other dimensions, but they're going around trying to find them and dismantle them all. And they've dismantled a few, but they don't know where they all are. But basically it's as simple as rejecting that light.
Yeah.
And asking for your spirit guides, your friends to come help you. And so you can find your way out of the fucking game, tell Earth to fuck off and go somewhere else.
Yeah, it reminds me because it is a hologram. Like it's like at the end of a video game, if it says game over, you push, you don't do the whole, like an arcade game. What happens when you die? Insert new quarter, right? Like play the game again. Right? Like that's the idea of the light might be like, we might think, oh, it's just this light. It might be that it's just the attraction of something that's going to attract you so much that's going to feel like you're still in that matrix. You don't want, it should be the opposite. It should be like, where is the place out of this fucking matrix? I don't want to feel anything that reminds me of that matrix because that's just going to put me back. You're not going to go see your loved ones. You're going to go back and see your loved ones through past life reincarnations of them in this fucking life in a different form. That's not that exciting. Fucking, you know what I mean? Like, so I think that's where it's like, that's where, none of these religions go into that, right? They actually preach to have you go to heaven by following through them and of course through their money and the things that you need to do. And that you're judged by it at the end. The irony of judgment at the end is whether or not that you're going to get out of, that's so funny, the judgment card, you're going to get out of being that gray fucking in a coffin fucking vessel and discard it fully, like let it go energetically, right? Because if you can let go of something to manifest something better, so that's what death is, manifesting better than this. It doesn't mean that you stay attached to the feelings that come through that. That's kind of an interesting place. But I don't know. I don't know if, I think that you're right. I think that to cover this, that this is all religions' moment for their great awakening. And maybe that's who's left of the people who haven't woken up yet. Because it's interesting, because it's like, I don't think in anybody who's protesting right now that they're an atheist.
All right.
Right? Like any of the pro-Palestine people are going to be people of God from some place. But what people have to realize is they're fighting the other side that believe in God too, that everybody believes in God, a higher creator. And so it's probably why that if you look at our history of this country, why it was made by Masons. I mean, literally they were Masons. In Masonry, you put down your fucking religion and you all agreed that we're going to work together and we're going to all see that there's one God, period. And so like they hate, there was a whole Mason movement against Masons for the 1800s in the beginning of it. Now it's this whole movement against, Biden and Trump or whatever, instead of like looking at it like, well, Biden is a Catholic. And Michael Moore just went on CNN and begged him to fucking get the fucking Palestinian vote. Not even kidding. And then I didn't even know Michael Moore is a fucking Catholic. He's like, I'm a fellow Catholic. I'm like, oh my God, this was last night. I'm like, it's right in front of people's faces right now. It's a religious holy war. And they're using it against everybody. And that is the ultimate death trap, because that's going to lead to the war that pulls everybody in. And I guess they really want to harvest and reincarnate a whole new harvest. That's the scary part.
Yeah. No, they're the people who are going to the lower vibrational planet are fighting to take as many people as they can, and those of us who are trying to guide people into the higher vibrational timeline are trying to guide as many people away as we can. So eventually it's going to get to a point where the people who are going to the higher timeline are going that way, and there's nothing you can do. It doesn't matter. We can sit and talk all the shit we want, that like it's going to get to a point where it goes, and it's a done dollar, So I'm thinking it's probably going to be here very, very soon. I could be wrong, but I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. All we can do is keep shining that fucking light.
Yeah, because I mean, you just said it. That's what light workers we do. Is like we try to get people away from the light the same way in the death trap. You would want to be that friend that came through and be like, hey, bro, don't go fucking back into that. Come over here. And it looks dark, but it's not. It's the opposite. It's like, no, actually the real light's over here. That's false light. Right. And I think that's the crazy part. And I think what's really hard though is that, yeah, you're right. Like this is going to happen. I think what we just saw this week is that they've just turned all the gears on because they got all the money for the wars. Now they just did the fucking pay all the protesters, get everybody to take over colleges, now do the encampments. They've already set up Iran to fucking shoot at Israel. They've already got Ukraine with people running away, and they already got all the Polish now are going to send their fucking men over to fight for Ukraine. And that they rigged that election because the Polish fucking, head president was like right wing, and then there was just an election at the end of 2023, and now Poland's left, and now he's like, oh, if you're a Polish man, you're gonna go fight for Ukraine now. And then they're fucking holding men in Poland against it. Which weird is that's what Hitler did. Hitler came in and said, hey, you're gonna fight on our side now to the Polish, with the Nazis. And there was a whole Polish movement against that fought against the Germans to keep Poland in the atrocities that were happening not only with Jews, but also the Polish people who weren't Jews. I know too much stupid history, but it's like now that's happening again. Now it's like, oh, you're Polish. You're going to go fight for the Ukrainians now because there's not enough Ukraine people. We're like, what? What do you think you're going to do next? Because they've been saying it. Lindsey Graham said it. A bunch of people have said it. Like, we need to send money over there so your American kids don't need to go fight in Ukraine. It's like, oh, well, you've been doing that for what, 2.5 years now and nothing's gone good? So I guess you're telling us that you're going to have our sons and daughters go fight in Ukraine. Okay. And they need this they needed this Middle East war to really fucking pop the juices for all these people. That's scary.
Yeah. Oh, well. It's scary, but at the end of the day, the people who fall for it, maybe they deserve it. That's all I'm going to say. If you fall for it in 2024, you fucking deserve it. And that's my last words on that,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of any other way to word it, of all the information that's out there, of all the shit you can get your hands on, of all the information that you have at your fingertips, and you fall for it. Like, I never thought I'd hear myself say that. I was always for waking everybody up, but now I'm at a point to where it's like, if you really enjoy playing that game, you deserve what's coming to you. So,
well, my last word will be the fact that people are falling for it even more so now without realizing it is that the crazy part, just like 2020 though, is like, that was all fake info, right? It was all numbers that were fake, over exaggerations of what's safe and beneficial and will not cause any harm. That the test was going to tell you that you had COVID.
Yeah. That
people fell for that shit. And then now AI, and every time I look at Britney Spears videos or the Kate Middleton videos, they're AI. Okay. That bitch is not fucking around, or she's around, but it's not her, but that wasn't her. Britney Spears is not Britney Spears. And fucking, I'm sorry to say, but everything you see in Gaza and everything that you see in Ukraine and everything that you see is AI. It's AI video. None of it is in high definition. We all have fucking 4K TVs. I don't care if you're wherever you're at. You bought a Walmart 4K TV somewhere over the last 4 years. We all have a 4K screen on our phone. And every video of everything they're showing on the news and everything is all in lower quality than everything over the last 30 years. So it's like, that's how they fuzz out the AI to make it look better. Even the drones of look at what Gaza looks like. If you go to OpenAI and look up on Sora, their video thing, what do all of the videos of the AI Sora that's not released yet because they're saying they don't want to fuck up an election year and have people making up crazy videos. It's all over crane drone shots of You want to look like it's the Old West? You want to look like it's 2052 in Africa? You want to, right? Like they know how to make it look like however they fucking want. And it's all drone shots. The same way they do the drone shots over Gaza. 1 million. I would, if I have it, so I do have a silver dollar. That's right now because silver's gone up. I think it's like $28 an ounce. I'd bet in a year it's going to come out by March of next year, because I'm very specific with the astrology, that what people fell for all of this was AI generated. Even the people in Afghanistan that were running with the plane, that plane wasn't real. Like people still believe that was not a real plane. Those jet engines would have sucked all those people up. And even the numbers on the plane don't make sense. And the windows aren't, right? If people go look at the Afghanistan video where all those people were running with the plane, that did not happen. What you're seeing right now did not happen. And so really you said they probably deserve it. Anybody who's falling for this shit, not realizing that the videos are not like right now, the video that you and I are live streaming, we're live streaming in a studio right now, is 100 times clearer and better quality than what you see that supposedly the great wars that are happening. There's something wrong with that. And everybody's phone around the world has nice phones. Our phones take better video than what's being shown everywhere. Even the protest shit and all the fucking, it's all so fucking toned down. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I'm in media for a living. You're in media for a living. We take better, clear videos than what everybody puts out of what's actually happening. Makes no sense with a world where if they really cared and there's billions of dollars to go to it, why aren't there high quality videos of this shit? There's not one 4K video of the war on any of it. There's not one 4K video of Gaza. Not one. They're all fucking 720p at the highest and fuzzed out. I don't know. That's where I would end it.
Yeah. That's why I say, I mean, you get what's coming to you. I hate to say it, but all the people that fell for the shit back in 2020, they got what was coming to them. And if you think that like you're going to get out of this no matter what, you're wrong. Like now this is the last fucking straw. If you don't wake up now, it's not going to be fun for you. And again, if you don't wake up now, it's because you don't want to. And if you don't want to, then you deserve what's coming to you. That's where I'm at with it. I'm so fed up with it.
Well, and I will say this one more last thing. If you look at because we did poverty consciousness last week, McDonald's is saying they're hurting. Starbucks is saying they're hurting, right? So that it's the same thing that happened with Black Lives Matter. It was right before there was relief with money. They threw the Black Lives Matter thing, so people didn't have jobs. They didn't have the extra cash, so they had nothing to do. Mm-hmm. What's happening right now? People have no money. There's no Fed coming to save them this time, though. So I guess I'm going to go put on a Palestinian flag, right? And go join a cause so I can feel like I'm part of something. And there's probably money in there, right? And, it's probably, again, through the worst person probably on the planet that George Soros hired or somebody being like, hey, you want $50? Go over there and blow up that window. Who wants to go break in? I got 200. And people will do anything for that right now. Mm-hmm. I saw a bunch of TikTokers freaking out because it's saying to live comfortably in America, it doesn't matter the state, that on one income for an individual, you need $93,000 a year now in America. Two couples married, $210,000 combined to just live comfortable, right? And everybody's like, that's impossible. Like every comment, right? And so it's kind of an interesting moment here where it's like people don't believe in themselves. They don't believe in the manifestation abilities, but they'll believe AI video and justice warrior people that they look up to as like fucking Street Fighter characters, Mortal Kombat characters is like, oh my God, this person, look at them. They're being so heroic for such a bad thing that's happening in the world. That's all AI generated. And with an AI president, it's like, you kind of have to laugh. And I think that's there's comedy in light work. I think that whatever is so blasphemy stupid and people fall for it, like COVID, all of this, you can only laugh. And I know that seems hard, like that, or that seems mean, but at some point, the more retarded you are, the more I'm going to laugh. And right now it has gone full-blown tilt retard that I am just laughing because people are just retarded everywhere now. So I'm just waiting for the government now to give their free wheelchairs for the retards out. So won the show there, but that was a good show. And I'm glad that we did it. And I think that's the difference between a social justice warrior and a light worker.
Mm-hmm. That does it.
Fight. All right, everyone. See you on the next one. Thanks for all the support. Much love to you all. And we'll see you on the next awakening experience. Bye-bye.